How's it going, everybody? It's Side Income Dad here. And today I'm coming at you by myself because after we posted that poll on YouTube, we noticed that 77% of you wanted to get this spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and do a deeper dive and kind of show you how to use it. So there's obviously instructions here. I'm going to just go ahead and go into each one of these tabs and show you. So we're going to start in the holdings tab here. You want to go ahead and enter how much you have. In this demo, we're just kind of going to cover something real simple. So let's say I'm going to say I own 100 shares. I don't know, 10 shares, 100, 50, and then I don't know, let's say 200. So something like this. What's going to happen here is now all of a sudden that you've entered these numbers, you're going to see how much it says that you spent to acquire these holdings. So in this case, it says that you've spent $4,000. The way that it works in terms of the price, you need to enter your average price in these areas. If you do not have that average price because you haven't bought them yet, then it's just going to assume that you bought at this price and waited for the day that they pay their dividend. So in basically all these funds are all yield max, so they usually have their price go down on Thursdays. And so it'll take that 3 month average price, drop that and say that that's what you paid for it. Obviously, this is all an estimate. We're trying to predict the future, so things are going to change. So again, you use your average so that way you actually get the right calculation for yourself. We get a couple stats here. So outside of paid cost, you get what's the current value. You get that 3 month average. This is the dividend that they paid, the last three times they've paid. And so, for something like ULTY, which is weekly, it's only going to say like what were the last 3 weeks of what it paid. The other thing is if, let's say, for example, your fund is not here, one of the newer funds is MSTW, you can just type it in here, MSTW, and it'll go ahead and fetch it. Now, MSTW is weekly. It does not know that, so you would have to go in there and say weekly. And that's how you use this sheet. Now, if you've got tons of them and you need more, you can just kind of highlight. So you can highlight this whole thing and then you just drag it one more and then you have now this new place where you can go ahead and enter the fund that you're into. It is not limited to Yieldmax. As you saw, I entered MSTW. I can enter something else. MSTW is from Round Hill, so let's say NVDW, since it's the stock I'm looking to buy, they're also weekly, and look, it goes ahead and pulls that information in as well. Now, the other thing that you want to look at here is like what is the expected dividend? And so that's going to be this line here. It's going to tell you how much the expected dividend is going to be. This one does do the calculation monthly. So if you had 200 shares of ULTY, it's going to say that in a month you'll get about $81.92. Again, an estimate, so that's kind of how this works. You get your ROI on your entire portfolio. So obviously the account summary shows your entire portfolio, how many dividends you've gotten today, what's your ROI to date, and then calculated price. Let's say that I paid, I don't know, let's say I paid $7 for TSLY, right? And so, and actually we'll come back to that. Let's enter something for all of these. Let's say PLTY was 68, and I just want to have like a red in there so you guys can kind of see how it works. Say CONY is $8, MSTY was, I don't know, $21. And then ULTY, we can say 620 since it was at 620 for quite a while. All right, so in this case, we would see obviously a negative, right? Like that doesn't look good, but it hasn't taken dividends into account just yet. This months until money printing, this is really like house money. Like at what point will you be in house money? This is a prediction. And so it's saying that it'll take 14 months for you to pretty much get all your money back through dividends that you initially invested. What the way that you can see that is it's going to drive this price to zero. So your cost basis will drive to zero. And I'll show you guys kind of how that works. Now, this bottom portion here is like what you'd like to have. So again, this is kind of like if you're planning for 2026, this is what you have at the end of 2025. And you would say, you know what, in 2026, I want to double all of my positions. And so here you would say the share goal that you would want is 200. So then it says you need 100 shares to get there. And we're just going to go ahead and do that across the board. Just again, we're just trying to make things simple. So I'm going to say double everything. Um, and finally, for ULTY, we're going to throw in 400. And so again, because we're planning, now it's going to say, okay, in order to do that, you are going to need another $4,254.80. So you kind of can prepare like how much do I kind of plan to spend next year? Now again, this is prices can change and will change. And so this is an estimate to kind of help you get there. Same thing. It says, okay, what is the dividend that I would expect to have if I bought those shares that I need and actually achieved my goal? So this would then include the current dividends plus the future dividends, which in this case, you would get a total of $620 per month. Okay. So now, you haven't bought any, so that's why this is at zero. That will change as you start to make up your plan. The next thing is you go to the distributions tab. So here, you can enter whatever date, I don't know, like let's say you bought, or not the buy, when you got your dividend. So let's say you got, let's go back to the holdings. They're estimating $51. I'm just going to make the math simple and I'm going to say you got, $100. So like you got $50 one month and then you got, another $50 the next month. And that was for TSLY. And so now you can put the date here. That's for yourself. We don't actually need it for any calculations. But now when I go back, now we can say, oh, I've received $100 from TSLY. And so it adjusts your cost basis. So instead of the $7 average price paid, it's obviously dropped. And now it's also showing a different ROI after the dividends. And so that's how this sheet is going to help you be aware of which investments are doing well and which ones are not. All right, so I'm going to not go ahead and fill in dividends for the rest of these, or else this video is going to get even longer. But I really wanted to show how this part is to be filled in. And then you got this plan detail. So here you have all the different months, and you can obviously change that. Maybe you make two purchases in January, so you can switch that. You can do whatever you want. It's all customizable. The only thing that you do need to do is say whether this is going to be a monthly or a weekly, and that's based on the ticker. So let's say that I want to buy some more ULTY. It's going to show me the price, the quantity. Remember, you're trying to plan. And so you're going to say, I want to buy, if the goal, we need 200 more shares to reach our goal. So maybe you buy like 50 shares this month. It's going to tell you how much the cost would be at the current price and what the expected dividend would be. And this is what I mean by like you can do more. Maybe that's what you bought week 1 of January, and then week 2 of January you can buy a little bit more. So we're gonna go with ULTY again, and then you're gonna say I want to buy another 50. So now you're getting closer. So after you fill this out, let's say we want to buy some. What do we want to say? Let's say TSLY, since that's what we did earlier. And you need about 100 shares of those. So let's just do half of them. We'll do another 50. So that's about how much it's going to cost. This is the dividend you'll earn from that. Now, I did not change this to weekly, so I'm going to go ahead and do that so you can see the dividend properly. Obviously, that made quite a change there. Um, so now we would go to overview. Once you plan it all out, you can go to overview. And by the way, this is meant to go back and forth. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so in January you made all these purchases. And again, to go back, this is what it says that you did. And then TSLY shows up in March. So when we go to overview and you look at March, it does show that you bought some TSLY stock here. It's going to show you the new dividend that's going to be coming in based on the purchases you made. And it's going to then track that. So your monthly income will change. If you have margin that you owe, you'd have to enter that over here. So for example, maybe I'm coming into the year with zero margin, then you leave it alone. Maybe I'm coming into the year with, I don't know, $2,000 in margin. And so you would do that, and this would then go ahead and fill in. And so the other thing is that it's going to say, oh, look, based on the margin you owe, this is how much your margin interest is going to be. And it kind of shows you how you can pay that down based on the monthly income you're getting. Now, the interest rate that I have on here is 11%. Again, you change it to whatever it is that your margin interest is. But now let's go back to zero. And so in this case, I wanted to point something out. Let's say that you purchase more than what you're actually making. So like for example, here you bought $590 worth of stock, but you're only making 310 at that point. So you owe this much in margin. It's going to go ahead and prioritize paying that margin off on this next month, which is why you don't see $351 of savings. And so like it all automatically does this. Now, to kind of summarize all of this is at the end, oh, really quickly, why do we have a bonus month? That's because all of these funds, they pay every 4 weeks. And so if you divide the year by 4 weeks, you actually get 13 payments from each fund. So one of these months is going to give you an extra payment for all the different funds. So, TSLY will be a different month where it pays twice, and so will MSTY, and so will CONY, and so will PLTY, and all that. And so that's why we have this bonus month. We want to make sure we account for that. Now, so at the very end, once it's all filled out, you're going to see what your final monthly income is going to be. And so that just takes the value here. So that's how much dividends you're going to be making at the end of, in this case, 2026. Now, you might be looking at this side and say, well, what's going on over here? What's going on over here is something a little bit interesting for those of you that know what margin is and actually use margin. You can come in here and play with what percentage of your margin you want to use. Maybe you want to use half of the margin you have available. So you change it to 50%. And you're going to see this where all of a sudden it's going to calculate pretty much half, like what is the margin available to you? And that's going to be based on your current holding, so your account value. And then it's going to say, oh, you should, based on that, you could like purchase this much ULTY. And then it goes ahead and does margin interest, but then it shows you that dividend. And if you continue this 50% for the whole year, it pretty much shows you where you could be. So this is saying that by the end of the year, you could be getting a $107 in ULTY dividend if you had used your margin to just buy ULTY. Not only that, but you would have earned, right, that $1,067 dollars. You would have grown your account by that much. And so basically you're using free money, which is paying the margin interest, but then it's also growing your account. So a cool little hack, obviously high risk. None of this is financial advice. This is just showing some of the like clever methods that we've come up with to help ourselves. So yeah. And now what am I saying in terms of ROI? This is saying based on like what we're going to be paying, how much are we getting in return? And obviously that's a lot. Like this is a great return. So now if we jump over to the summary tab, you enter your tax bracket, whatever your tax bracket is. If you do nothing, like if you don't enter anything here, it's going to default to 34%. But if you do enter something in here, then it's going to use whatever it is that you use. This is going to give you a quick summary. So based on everything that you filled out, how much income did you earn in the entire year? All that's doing is it's taking this and it's adding this and it's adding earned and then it's adding income over here. And so that way you know how much money you made. And it's going to give you like again the whole full breakdown. Taxes, how much taxes would you owe? Net profit, like the savings. And again, if we want to know where savings coming from, it's this. All right. How much money did you save? for the year, following this plan that you are creating, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the whole purpose of this sheet is that you're holding yourself accountable to what you plan to do for the year. The value of your starting portfolio, the value of the main portfolio after all the stock that you bought, the value of your margin stocks, which is basically this is actually your money that you made out of thin air. And so at the end, it just adds these two and it gives you your portfolio value. And then it says, based on that, you'd be getting about 376 dividends. Then it gives you a little summary here. So as you can see, it's going to say you spent $0 out of pocket. Why does it say that? It says that because everything you purchased was just dividend money. Like you used the dividend money to go ahead and make purchases or create savings accounts and all that. It tells you you got to add this much money. Where does this number come from? Well, it's just your savings minus your taxes owed. It says you increased your portfolio by that much, which you did. Um, and then, you know, how much ROI is that in just 1 year? This is a great summary. Obviously, amazing numbers with something super simple. We didn't even go crazy. We could go back to the detailed plan and say, I actually want to buy something every month. So, I don't know, I buy MSTY here and I get, let's say 25. And so if I do 25, and then the next month, let's say I get CONY this month, and I get 50 of those. And what do we need? PLTY. And then PLTY, I need, let's say I do the full 10 this month. So if we do that, obviously overview changes, some margin comes into play, but then summary also will change. So now it's saying, okay, this is what you got going on. This is, look at that ROI. It was like 40 something before. Now you're at 86. So it's dynamic, right? It's going to change based on what you enter. Finally, fund comparison. These drop downs come from that very first sheet. And so that means that if you are looking for something here and it's not there, all you need to do is add it to the main one. So as an example, let's see what's not in here. Um, well, like BTCI, I guess, is something that I don't see in here. Like we also don't see MSTW. So let's just add both of those. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say BTCI. And I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to do exactly what I told you guys to do, which is just drag this over. And then I'm going to add MSTW. And if I do that, when I go over to that fund comparison, now they're going to show up. So now we're going to see where are the MSTW and BTCI. There they are. So what's going on here? Let's talk about this a little bit. This is saying that if you invested $5,000, if you left it there for 12 months and you reinvested, so you turn drip on for your portfolio, what is the expected return, right? Again, this is all estimate. And so the ones that are being compared here, SMCY, MSTY, PLTY, it looks like SMCY would give the highest level of returns because it's been yielding 8% in the last 3 months on average, while MSTY and PLTY have been yielding less. Your ending portfolio value, naturally, SMCY would be higher since they have the higher yield. And then this is what your dividends would look like. So at the end of the 12-month period, SMCY would be paying 1,021, MSTY would be at 609, and then PLTY at 625. This relative volatility, you have this sort of legend over here on the right to know like how high risk they are or low risk or just in general the investment risk level. And so SMCY, MSTY, they're fairly similar in terms of risk level. PLTY is a little bit less risky here, being moderate. This is looking at over the last 90 days. Now you also want to look at whether that price has gone up or down. And so this is going to show us that SMCY with this high risk play, meaning that it moves quite a lot, it's moving upwards. On the other hand, look at MSTY, right? MSTY also moves just as much, but it moves downwards. So that's a riskier play. And then PLTY, a moderate risk level, it doesn't move as much. And we see that it's been moving very little bit in the upside. So that's how you use every one of these tabs. I'm going to put the link to this spreadsheet in the description. Feel free to use it. Feel free to download it. It's free. I'm not charging anything. You know, I guess all I would ask is that you subscribe and like the videos that we put out. It's validating. We put in a lot of work into this stuff, and so to have you guys appreciate that work, it means that we're going to keep building more and more things for you. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good one.